What is up YouTube? Welcome to yet another episode of the anatomy series. Today we are going to cover the biceps. If you struggle with growing your biceps and you want them to look better and have a more impressive peak, this video is for you. So stay tuned as we cover how to properly execute those curls for the girls. So the biceps are actually pretty simple. They comprise of two heads, the long head on the outside of the arm and the short head on the inside of the arm. We will also talk about a different muscle that is under the biceps and plays a role in pushing the biceps outwards, making them look bigger and making the peak more impressive, which is the brachialis. So both heads of the biceps originate from different parts of the scapula, run down the arm, past the elbow joint to insert into the radius, which is one of the bones of your forearm. They work to flex the forearm by pulling the radius closer to the shoulders. They also help to supinate the forearm, which is to turn your wrist upwards so that your palms face the sky. Incorporating these two movements in your bicep training is the best way to get optimal results. This can be done by using different curling variations, each of which have certain advantages and a uniqueness to them. It's also worth mentioning that the biceps also assist in shoulder flexion, although this isn't really a movement that we incorporate into our biceps training. The best way to grow your biceps is to eat a bunch of spinach from a can. I'm joking. The most common exercise for the biceps would be the barbell curl. This is my favorite bicep exercise because it allows you to really provide a heavy stimulus onto the biceps and also allows for good progressive overload. When you want to do lower reps with heavier weights, this is the exercise for just that. To perform barbell curls, hold the bar at around shoulder width with your arms fully extended. Then, keeping your elbows somewhat stagnant, pull the weight up towards your chin, making sure to focus on that mind-muscle connection and squeezing the biceps as you perform the movement. A good way to develop that mind-muscle connection is to emphasize the squeeze at the top of the curl, holding it for a few seconds so you can feel the biceps working. Then slowly lower the weight back to the starting position. There are some people who believe that using a wider grip will put more emphasis on the short head and a more narrow grip will put more emphasis on the long head. However, we believe this to be a bit far-fetched. Although this may be true, using a shoulder width grip gives you a better range of motion, is easier on the wrists and works both heads just fine. So we would recommend just sticking to the shoulder width grip for barbell curls. Next up is any cable curl variation. Now this has the advantage of providing constant tension throughout the range of motion, as compared to the barbell or dumbbell curls, which suddenly become hard in the middle of the lift but they are easier at the top. With cable curls, you can also supinate your wrists as you perform the curl, allowing the supination function of the biceps to be dynamic during the exercise instead of static as when you're doing the barbell curl. Progressive overload is often easier with cables as the weight increments are much smaller compared to the dumbbells found in most gyms. Another advantage is that you can perform cable curls unilaterally, one arm at a time, or bilaterally, both arms working to move the same weight at the same time. So you can benefit from both these variations. Moving on to dumbbell curls. These mostly have the same advantages as the cable curls, except they do not provide constant tension throughout the movement. Just like the barbell curl, dumbbell curls are hardest in the middle of the exercise and they're easiest at the top. However, unlike the barbell curl, dumbbell curls allow each bicep to work individually. So the biggest advantage of this is that you're able to fix any muscle imbalances. Maybe, let's say, one bicep is bigger than the other. Dumbbells are also quite common to find in most gyms as compared to cables, so access isn't really a hindrance when it comes to using dumbbells. However, the jumps in weight from one dumbbell to the heavier one can make progressive overload a bit difficult, as sometimes the jump may be a bit too heavy. Studies have shown that performing bicep curls with your arms stretched out behind your body puts more emphasis on the long head, since the long head crosses over the shoulder joint and the short head does not. So performing dumbbell curls while laying on an inclined bench is one way to put a stretch on the biceps, ensuring that there is emphasis on the long head as you perform the curls. You can also do this with cables while standing up, kneeling down, or lying on a bench. But you have to make sure that the height of the cable is well adjusted and the resistance curve isn't out of whack. Incorporating these 3 curl variations in your biceps training is a sure way to get optimal bicep growth. You also want to make sure that you include a curl that involves supination. That's where you can take advantage of that function of the biceps. Finally, let's talk about the brachialis. Most people don't know this, but the brachialis is actually one of the 3 primary flexors of the elbow joint, the third being the brachioradialis. But we're going to talk about the brachioradialis in a different video for the forearms. So be sure to subscribe so that you do not miss that video. So the brachialis originates from the humerus and inserts into the other bone of the forearm, which is the ulna. Unlike the biceps, this muscle does not supinate the forearm and it only performs elbow flexion. So to emphasize the brachialis, perform your curls with a neutral grip, which is called a hammer curl. You'll notice that we didn't talk about the other curl variations like the concentration curl or the preacher curl. You can go ahead and try these if you want. It's really a matter of preference. The focus should be more on ensuring that there is a cable variation that provides constant tension, a barbell variation that allows heavier loading, and a dumbbell variation for unilateral work. If you've only got access to one, it's still fine. What's important isn't the different kinds of exercises that you can do. It's how hard you work on each set. So you can actually get phenomenal bicep gain from only doing the barbell curls, given that you're working hard enough on each set. Keep the rep range somewhere between 8 to 15 reps, as these are isolation movements, so going too heavy will increase the risk of injury. Also note that the biceps are heavily involved when doing back exercises like pull-ups and rows and lat pull-downs. So they get quite a decent amount of work from these exercises. So if you do properly exercise your back, you do not need to do that many sets for direct bicep work. Anything between 6 to 15 sets per week would be ideal. That would depend on how hard you work on each set. So someone who works really hard, maybe to failure and beyond, can be fine doing just 6 sets per week. But someone who goes a bit easier, maybe 3 reps, 4 reps in reserve, or 5 reps in reserve, would benefit more from doing more sets, maybe 15 sets per week. With all this in mind, a good bicep program would look something like this. And that is it, people. Apply these tips to your biceps training and I guarantee you that you will love the results. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications and share the video to your friends and family so that they can benefit from this video, and that would also help out our channel by getting more views and getting more views, because you want the money. Who doesn't want the money? Bro, don't you want the money?
I need it.
I'm requiring that. Also, leave a comment below if you have any questions or suggestions regarding biceps training or any other aspect of fitness. With that, we are out.